Oh, the last time I tried to run my own internet radio station was probably back in 2009. It was called Q109 Rock from Beyond the Dial. I had my own little IceCast server running. My music licensing was handled through, it was a company called SWCast. And honestly, it worked pretty well. It wasn't, it wasn't pretty, it wasn't fancy, but I was, streaming rock music to whoever wanted to listen. And I was doing it completely legally before I even ever got into broadcast radio and got into the whole broadcast engineering side of things. I didn't start officially, first real job in commercial radio till 2014. And I haven't ran an internet radio station since. And I went back the other day, and I was looking at it because I'm like, maybe I'd like to do that again. Man, it's a lot harder now than it used to be. My name's Tyler. Welcome to the podcast. And today I'm talking about internet radio licensing. What it looked like in 2009 versus what it looks like now. And, well, why the gap between those two things is, larger than the frickin' Grand Canyon at this point. And I can tell you right now, I'm not doing another internet radio station. Quick disclaimer before I get into it. This is all my opinion, my experience, my point of view. I work and broadcast. But this show isn't my employer talking. This is just me. Now, back in 2009, there was real options out there if you wanted to run a small webcast. SWCast was a licensing aggregator, as they call them. You paid them. They handled your SoundExchange and pro obligations behind the scenes. And you went on with your life. You were legal. Loud City did the same thing. So did Stream Licensing. And if you wanted the whole package, the hosting, the streaming, and licensing all under one roof, well, you could go with Live 365. Live 365 was the entire stack in one subscription. You paid a monthly fee. They covered your royalties, and you had a station. You could even put all your files, all your music on there and set up your automation. Thousands of people were doing this. Hobbyists, music nerds, people who just wanted a themed radio station because commercial radio wasn't playing what they wanted to hear, which, fair, I get it. I went the IceCast route, and I think I did Shoutcast at one time, but I went the IceCast route because I wanted more control over the technical side because, obviously, I'm a nerd, if you haven't guessed yet. SWCast handled the licensing. I handled everything else. To me, that was a cool, arrangement. I don't know. And then the hammer came down on SWCast. They got caught red-handed. The short version is, well, they weren't paying what they were supposed to be paying, SoundExchange. They were collecting licensing fees from people like me and not passing the money through correctly. SoundExchange obviously eventually figured it out. Things went sideways fast, and SWCast was done. Which meant I was done too, because you can't continue streaming music online without music licensing. They come at you fast. My licensing coverage evaporated when SWCast shut down. I wasn't going to rebuild the whole setup again from scratch. So Q109 went dark. I didn't think much about it at the time, really. Life moved on. I got deeper into broadcast engineering, less into hobbyist internet radio stuff anyways, and I filed, running my own internet radio stream away as things I used to do. Formerly an internet radio station programmer and janitor, because I did all the things. Until recently, when I started actually really considering doing it again because Live 365 is still out there. It's not the same group who owned it back then, but they're still running. And let me tell you, that shit's expensive. For a hobbyist station, it's like $70 a month. And the thing that you need to understand about music licensing, especially for webcasting, it's not one license. It's not even two. It's a whole blanket. It's a whole stack of shit. Every recorded song carries two separate copyrights. One covers the composition, the melody, the lyrics, the underlying musical work. That's handled by the performance rights organizations. The guys like ASCAP, BMI, SESCAC, SESAC, I don't know, and GMR. The other covers the actual sound recording, the specific performance you're hearing. That's the SoundExchange part. Terrestrial AM and FM radio only ever pays the composition side. Over-the-air broadcasters have never had to pay SoundExchange a dime for the master recordings they play. That exemption has been baked into U.S. law from the start, and there's a whole separate fight happening right now about whether that should change. Different episode. Webcasters pay both. Always have. The DMCA made that a law back in 1998. So, right off the top, you need licensing from multiple different organizations because ASCAP, BMI, SESAC, SASAC, I don't know, GMR, each represent different catalogs. And you need all of them if you want to play anything without some serious gaps. Then SoundExchange on top of all of that. The SoundExchange rate right now for a non-subscription commercial webcast or whatever sits at 1/4 cent per performance. It doesn't sound like a lot. It isn't until you start doing the math. A performance is one song to one listener. So, 20 people tune in, you play a song, that's 20 performances. Run 12 songs an hour, and that's 240 performances an hour. A small station with 20 consistent listeners ends up owing somewhere around $3,000 to $4,000 a year in, per performance royalties alone before a single pro gets paid, PRO. And there's a minimum fee on top of that, $1,000 a year per station just to be in the program, whether anyone's actually listening to your station or not. So your floor, just SoundExchange, is $1,000 a year before ASCAP, before BMI, before the other guys, before whatever you're paying to actually host and stream the audio. In 2009, there was reduced rates for small webcasters, a revenue-based structure that actually acknowledged the difference between Hobbyist and the likes of Pandora. That went away at the end of 2015 when the Webcaster Settlement Act expired. And the Copyright Royalty Board just didn't replace it with anything small webcaster friendly. Flat per performance rate for everybody. That's the ruling that actually killed off Live 365 the first time. January 2016, thousands of independent online radio stations went dark because, well, the math stopped mathing. Stopped working overnight. Live 365 eventually did come back. They got acquired, relaunched, and today exist as an all-in-one platform where the licensing is bundled into your subscription. You pay somewhere between $60 and $100 a month at the entry level, and they cover ASCAP, BMI, SoundExchange, GMR, and the rest. It's the easy button if you actually want to do this kind of stuff. The trade-off, though, is you're on their platform, their infrastructure, their rules on licensing, hour caps, and, overage billing. But for a small operator, it's a pretty, decent choice, because the alternative is doing all that legwork yourself, and you really don't want to get into that mess. I don't think anyways, unless you're really motivated. But and I get the appeal of doing it yourself. I mean, shit, I ran my own IceCast and ShellCast servers back in the day. I liked the control, but assembling the stack manually means a SoundExchange minimum of $1,000 a year, BMI starting around 350, ASCAP I think is around the same, and then you got the other guys who don't even publish their rates to the public, so you have to call and ask. Going in blind on 2 of the 4, I don't want to do it. Then there's the reporting aspect. Just because you got licensing doesn't mean you're good. SoundExchange wants a monthly statement of account, track by track. They call them ASRC codes. I don't even know what the hell that means. Every song, but basically every song you played into how many listeners. Yeah, it's not impossible, but a real administrative burden that will eat time that you're probably not planning to spend doing. I mean, there's also platforms like radio.co. They'll hand you the streaming side of it and nothing else. The licensing is still your problem. They'll point you toward the licensing bodies and wish you luck on your adventure, but they're not going to help you do that part. Realistic DIY has to land somewhere north of $1,700 a year before one person has ever actually listened to your radio station. And that's before the per performance overages once you grow past whatever the minimum covers. In 2009, that wasn't the situation. The small webcaster provisions made it manageable. Aggregators like SWCast made it more manageable. The whole ecosystem existed to let the small operators participate. Well, as we know, that whole system is now mainly gone. What's left is, pay for Life 365 or figure it out yourself and hope you budget accordingly. There's no in between anymore. I'll be honest, man, when I started thinking about spinning up a new station, because I got a lot of music I want to play, I would love to go back and relive some of my on-air shenanigans. I don't know. But, I wanted to dust off the old skills, set up an IceCast, find a license aggregator, point a stream at something else, because it's never been easier than it is right now. Because in 2009, the tools weren't great either. Better tools nowadays, cheaper hardware, running a solid stream, that's not the hard part anymore. The hard part is the legal compliance. Man, and that's gotten way more expensive and way more complicated since that whole small webcaster provision expired. I hadn't looked into it since I got out of the game, but holy crap, man. And I want to be clear. I'm not saying artists and labels shouldn't get paid. Obviously, they need to get paid. That's not the argument. SoundExchange exists because webcasters were playing music, and the people who made it, they weren't seeing a dime. That was a real problem, and it needed to be fixed. But the problem is the rate structure they fixed it with doesn't distinguish between a hobbyist little bitty station, running out of your closet to 30 people in a company worth billions of dollars, iHeart, doing the same thing. Pandora, who is now owned by SiriusXM, can absorb a $0.25 per performance across hundreds of millions of listeners and build a whole business model around it. The retiree who just wants to stream some classic rock to his friends, he can't do the $1,000 minimum before anyone's heard a single song. The law that was supposed to level the playing field ended up entrenching the advantage of scale. That's the part that's hard to sit with. If I were doing this today, honestly, I'd probably just go live 365. Give up the IceCast server, give up the control, everything approach, pay the monthly fee, let them handle the paperwork, because the alternative isn't really viable at the scale I'd be wanting to operate at. QN09, man, rock from beyond the dial. Yeah, it's not coming back. Not because I don't want it to, because I can't afford that. That's a hard thing to say out loud. Maybe I'll spin up one of those playlist websites. I'll make playlists for Spotify or Apple Music or something. I'll do that instead, I guess. It's way cheaper to get into. And you think about, like, the other thing that we didn't really talk about, with the artists getting paid. You look at the guys like Spotify and Apple Music paying a little bit more to the artist than Spotify, but they still ain't paying them that much either. So that's the show for now. If you want to keep up with it, subscribe wherever you listen. And if anything else, if you want to buy me a coffee, you can head over to tylerwoodward.me. Hit the little link at the top of the page. Also, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts now. I'm going to have ad-free episodes and eventually exclusive episodes for members on there that you can get or nobody else can get. Also, it really just helps pay the hosting cost. That's all it's really going to. So, again, tylerwoodward.me. You can find all the socials there. You can find past episodes. You can shoot me a message if you like. I'll catch you guys next Tuesday with more random thoughts from some guy in Wisconsin. Have a good one.